Hi friends, Try Thunder here. Got you another video, just like I promised. The previous video I had just went over the gear I used, whether it be my ogre or nukem. It's just the gear that I find that I use the most. I promised 2 other videos, and I'm here to deliver on the second one. I had a choice between either highlighting the comms that I use, like the soldier, the veteran, or laying the groundwork for the build. And I decided that if I laid the groundwork for the build in this video, the comm video following later would be probably better received. So this video is going to be about how I build my Axton. And you'll see the various skills that I invest in, and I'll go over that as we get into the build. So let's go on and get started. Okay, first, of course, we have preparation. We'll start off in the survival tree and go to preparation. Preparation is just an awesome skill to have. I always put that at 5 out of 5. Even if you just have it 5 out of 5, that's what, like 2% health per second when your shields are full. It's just a really good passive way to regen your health. Of course, the extra shield capacity is always good as well. Almost everybody I know has the skill. I mean, for good reason. It's very good. And then, of course, if you slap Legendary Soldier on top of that, you're getting 4% health per second when your shields are full, and it's just awesome. So will always spec that. I did kind of do healthy a while back, but I just don't really need that. I kind of get enough health from preparation on its own. I just find that having more health is okay for some times, but other times it takes more time for me to get above health gate, so I generally avoid that. Okay, so going down to the next tier, we have pressure. I used to put this point actually into last ditch effort to give me 5 out of 5, but since I picked up the purple, veteran comm, since it also has pressure in addition to steady and last ditch, I thought, well, I'll just throw a point in there because it gives the one I have currently is a +4 boost to pressure. So I thought, well, I'll just put 1 in there and boost it up to 5. And you never know when that might come in handy if I'm in Fight for Your Life and have that on and reload really quickly. And I mean, it just kind of like last ditch and crisis set management, which we'll get into in a little bit. I kind of like having skills that are active in Fight for Your Life, and skills that'll give me a little leg up and give me a chance to get out of Fight for Your Life. So I generally like that skill, and then of course, if I'm doing like a TDR NATO assault, or TDR chucking, or things of that nature, that'll help out definitely. And then, like I said, the other 4 points I will put into last ditch effort. There are people who kind of think last ditch efforts maybe a bad skill. I'm not one of them, to be honest. My reasoning is that, well, to back up a little bit, they look at last ditch effort and then they look at skills like, say, grit, which gives you a chance to actually ignore death, thereby ignoring the possibility of going into Fight for Your Life at all. But in my opinion, can't think of the name now. Fight for Your Life. In my opinion, Fight for Your Life is inevitable. I mean, everybody's going to be going into Fight for Your Life eventually, even if you have 11 out of 5 in grit. I mean, Fight for Your Life is going to be there, and it's going to happen. So, my thoughts are, if I have that extra gun damage when I'm in Fight for Your Life, that gives me that much more chance to get out of there. Some other people might say, well, I mean, all you need to do is just pack a Norfleet or some other just insanely powerful weapon to get out of there, to get out of Fight for Your Life, and you don't even need that skill. True, that might be true, but I don't really carry Norfleets, and I do carry Bada Booms, but it's not really limited to just those weapons. If you look at it, that's extra 32% gun damage, and that means that's pretty much for every gun, which means my Sword Explosion, which is already beastly in Fight for Your Life, makes it that much more awesome. And even something mediocre like, I don't know, maybe a it's not really mediocre, but maybe something that's already pretty strong, like a Kerblaster, gets that much more amplified with the gun damage. Granted, it's not going to get grenade damage, but it'll get gun damage. But I think you can see what I'm saying. It's not really limited to just a type of gun for the gun damage. And so that's why I like to have the gun damage. And the movement speed is also nice too, don't get me wrong, but this can also be a really good boon if you're playing, especially in 4-player difficulty on OP8, where the enemies are just really tough. And I'm sure people have gotten down and fight for your life on OP8 before with 4 players, and their health is pretty beefy. So even if you do use a Norfleet with this skill active, it could potentially mean less shots fired, which would save you ammo. So that's just another way. That's just how I look at it. Kind of the method to my madness on that skill. And you can kind of say the same for Crisis Management, but we'll get into that in a little bit. So that pretty much wraps up the survival tree. Boy, I mean, if I had an extra 5 points, I would definitely put those in quick charge, because, I mean, that's a pretty awesome skill. About 5 out of 5 would be 5% of your shield per second. That's pretty awesome, but, you know, got to make some sacrifices, and I generally consider everything from, say, Tier 3 on down in survival tree to be not really needed, so from there we will go ahead and go on over to the Gunpowder tree. And of course we'll start with everybody's favorite, Impact, which, again, much like Preparation, I see everybody has that, and it's worth it. You get an extra 20% gun damage with just 5 points, and then, of course, just like Preparation, if you slap on a Legendary Soldier comm, you're going to get 10 out of 5, which really beefs up the damage. So it's just one of those skills that every Axton has, and it's good. And then if we move on over to the other Tier 1 skill, we have Expertise. I used to have this higher. The highest I had was like 5 out of 5, I believe. I kind of changed it around, and I got it to where I kind of like it now at a 2 out of 5. Because if you think about it, I go from Impact to Metal Storm and Battlefront and Steady. I put 5 out of 5 in all of those. And by the time all that's done, I only need 5 more points to get to Nuke. So what I'll do is put 2 out of 5 in Expertise, and I'll put 1 out of 5 in Overload, and then the other 2 I'll put in Longbow and Do or Die. That's kind of why I do that specifically. But to go back to Expertise, in my opinion, Axton switches weapons fairly quickly. If you're using the Legendary Soldier, it's going to be augmented to, say about 7 out of 5, which is good. And for non-expertise boosting comms, it's 2 out of 5, and you're getting 28% weapon swap and 14% movement speed while aiming, and that's not bad. But if I could put 5 out of 5 in that, I would not be able to put more points into other skills. So, again, I kind of had to make a sacrifice on that one, but, you know, it's not that huge of a deal. So then we will go on down to Tier 2, which, of course, is Metal Storm. I used to have this at 5 out of 5 to begin with, and then I learned about the console fire rate breakpoints, which I believe are 1, 3, it's either 5 or 5.5, and it's either 7 or 7.5, and it's 10, 15, and 30. Not for sure on those 2 middle ones, but those are the console fire rate breakpoints, which means if you can't get enough fire rate to get past say you're on a fire rate of 10, you have a weapon that gets a fire rate between 10 and, say, 14.5. If 14.5 is the maximum you can get it to, your fire rate, and since it won't go over to 15, then it's just going to stay at 10. So unless you have the power to actually get across the fire rate cap, it's not going to be that worth it. But on the other hand, I just like having that with the gunner comm, because when you go 10 out of 5 with my heavy gunner comm on, and the bolts start flying, the guns just starts firing ridiculously fast, it's awesome. And I mean, you can make the case that some weapons might not even get across that cap I was talking about, but it's still kind of cool just to see him fire that way. So I put it back to 5 out of 5. It's pretty fun. Like I said, using the heavy gunner comm is a lot of fun, and I just liked having it there. Then, of course, I mean, you also have the overload skill, which is basically gives you extra ammo capacity for assault rifles. I never used to grab this. I thought it was kind of worthless. But this comes back to my heavy gunner example, the heavy gunner comm example. The one I have is a purple one, and it has bonuses to steady, metal storm, and of course overload. And the one I have is a +4 one, so again, kind of like the pressure. I just put 1 point in there so that when I don the comm, I'm going to get 5 points in overload, which means 50% assault rifle magazine size, which isn't bad. I can use that for, say, also for the frontline rifleman comm. Granted, it's just going to be a 10% magazine size boost because the frontline rifleman doesn't boost overload, but still, of course, it goes back to what I said about the heavy gunner. It just gives you that 50%, and a lot of the weapons I have are actually assault rifles, so excuse me. So I can use that very well for that. Even though it may not be as powerful as, say, a soldier comm, it's still a lot of fun. Plus, if I have now that I have a lot of assault rifles, having an extra magazine size is pretty handy, and especially if you're talking about Torg weaponry, which the Kerblaster and various guns of that nature that pretty much tear through ammo. O'Dull is another one too, especially with those Bearcats. Those Bearcats eat ammo for lunch, so it helps out a little bit there. I'd normally just put 1 point in there, and that's usually enough. Okay, going on down to Tier 3, we got a full plate here. We have 5 out of 5 in Battlefront, of course. Lots of people seem to be choosing the guerrilla/survival builds nowadays, where you have like 26 in guerrilla and 26 in survival, and you only have, 15 left for gunpowder. So you'll see either they pick up impact, a couple in expertise, and say metal storm, and they'll only have a little bit left for this tier 3 line here. And I think they miss out on a lot of damage potential here, because you have Battlefront, which is plus 30% gun and grenade damage, which is really big if you have Torg weapons, especially like the Herald and the Sword Explosion. That makes those guns really more powerful. And also you have grenade damage, which of course makes your grenades that much more powerful. So it's a double whammy of awesomeness, and I will always put that at 5 out of 5. To me, it's awesome. I don't really hate the 15, 26 type of builds, but I would rather have more offensive power than trying to stave off fight for your life, which, like I said earlier, is going to be an eventuality for me. That's sort of the reason behind why I choose a guerrilla/gunpowder type of build. I'm more interested on just getting the damage out rather than trying to prolong me maybe not falling into fight for your life. So, but anyway, they tend to either get Battlefront or longbow and leave steady out, or they would get longbow and steady but miss Battlefront out with those 26, 15, 26 type of builds. But luckily with mine, there's just the build that I use. You can get both of them 5 out of 5, which is very massive. Let's say, for example, you have your fastball and you toss that thing when you have Battlefront and steady and do or die all active, and that thing is just going to cause mayhem. So I always love to get 5 out of 5 in Battlefront. Love that skill. Of course, steady as well. You have recoil reduction, grenade damage, rocket damage. Like I said, it's also important with grenades too. Steady's a big one for TDR reloads and Battlefront too. they're linked between grenadier comms and veteran comms. And you can even use the damage, of course, for just a regular soldier comm, but just steady and Battlefront in particular just have massive possibilities for damage. Like, say, the veteran comm for TDO reloads and the grenadier comm for massive grenade damage. It's just, I definitely want those skills. So I'll definitely put 5 out of 5 in both. And of course, when I put some comms on that boost these, like the Battlefront would be the Rifleman comm that boosts Battlefront, and then of course the Veteran boosts Steady. The damage gets even more intense. So yeah, I always get those, and I'm always happy doing that. Then to finish off Tier 3 of Gunpowder, we have Longbow, which is awesome. I didn't really like the Longbow delivery system at first, but now it's kind of cool. I like it. You can throw that thing. The range you can throw that is just amazing. Amazing how far you can throw it. Then it also makes the turret tanky too. Some people, I've been seeing some things, some posts around the forums, the Gearbox forums, of how and other forums about how the turret just seems like it's made of popsicle sticks or whatever. They say it's not tanky, but yeah, it's tanky. If you're going up against an enemy, say like an RPG loader that has like rockets, then yeah, it might not last too long. And other enemies, like in the Peak, for example, like Dukino, I mean, if you throw the turret at her feet, and of course she's going to stomp it and take it out in a couple moves. That's why I kind of elevate the turret and just throw it in a spot where she can't get it. But if you are throwing it in a way where they can't really get to it, that's part of the battle there. But then again, if you're just throwing it on the ground and you have regular enemy attacks, then as long as they aren't really corrosive in nature, it's going to be tanking pretty well. So I'm pretty pleased with how well it tanks and how well damage it can take before it finally breaks. So I always get that. The range, the amount of distance you can throw it is also a plus for me too. And of course we move on down to Do or Die, which allows you to have an extra 10% grenade and rocket launcher damage. That's always nice. But it also gives you the opportunity to throw grenades and fight for your life, which is pretty sweet too. I can see this definitely benefiting you. Say if you didn't have a slag weapon in your 4 weapon slots, you might be screwed when you get into fight for your life, and you don't really have a super powerful gun to get out. But if you had equipped a slag grenade, say, and you're able to throw that and fight for your life, and gives you the option to slag and debuff, and gives you that much more of a chance to get out of fight for your life, then that can be a really good thing. And of course, I mean, when you can also factor that into TDO reloads and grenade spamming. So since Axon really doesn't have that many multiplicative skills, his are kind of additive for the most part. I like to get every bit of damage I can, especially for grenades. And then, of course, we have... Well, I know I should probably go ahead and say how I don't pick up duty calls or ranger because I don't really think they're worth anything. At one point, duty calls was thought to be multiplicative, but kind of got debunked. So it's kind of been relegated back to the just the unused portion of the skill tree, I guess. I don't really see a big use for that because I'm not a big fan of Jacob's weapons or non-elemental weapons. And then with Ranger can be okay, really. If you pick up a Tiny Tina DLC class mod, like of course Axton's is the Ranger, like examples would be Chaotic Neutral Ranger or True Neutral Ranger. These comms will boost Ranger up, and you can get as high as like 11 out of 5 in Ranger, which would make all the stats 11%. And that's not too bad, and you can also, of course, do the Legendary Ranger route, which also has buffs Ranger, but I just don't really like that skill too much. I mean, you can argue that like 10 out of 5 would be 10% and everything, but I just don't really see that benefiting me a whole lot. I would rather just save my points and just put them elsewhere. That's just me. Some people might like it, but I'm not one of them. Okay, now we can go to the crown jewel of the gunpowder tree, which is the nuke. And, I'm a big fan of nuke. I'm not going to lie about it. This is kind of another one that people say the nuke really, the damage is meh. But, just kind of like Scorched Earth, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, the damage is very good on OP8 levels. Since the turret scales very well in the OP levels, the nuke actually does quite a bit of damage. I tested it one day, I think it was in Opportunity, and I tested it on a slagged, I think it was either a Sergeant loader or one of those Angelic loaders, but it did 27 million damage. The initial explosion did, and that's not too shabby. And if you think about it, that's kind of like an unbuffed fastball. If you, like, for accident, say you didn't spec into any of his skills, and you don't have any comms or anything like that boosts grenade damage. And that's because I think the base stats for a fastball are like the highest they can get are like 27 million. So yeah, I mean, you think about it, that's about as much as a fastball. I know I'm buffed fastball, mind you, but still, I mean, I consider that pretty good. Plus, I mean, when you have, say, a surveyor or an enemy with shields, and you slag them and throw that turret out, their shields are immediately going to go bye-bye. I mean, that's one less thing you have to worry about. And, of course, depending on what their constitution is, like, if it's a humanoid being, that's like a fleshy enemy, if you would slag the enemy, not only will the shields probably be gone, but they take both explosive and incendiary damage from the nuke. Because I believe when the nuke sets it off, the initial explosion is explosive damage, of course, but after that it has fire damage, kind of like a dot. So not only will you be stripping the shields off of those guys, but you'll also be giving them a dot, like a fire dot, which, of course, the shield is gone and their flesh is burning, so that gives you that much more oomph to the damage, and then it'll allow you to take them out quickly. But if it's, say, a loader, if it's against a loader and you slag them, it's not going to really do as well. They'll still be damaged by the explosive damage part of it, but they kind of resist incendiary damage, so it might not work very well against them. But even damage aside, one of the best things about the nuke is that it'll actually just, the knockback from it will just send some enemies flying. If you're using it, say, against maybe one of the regular sized surveyors or like a rat, and you slag them, those things will be gone. I mean, there's those rats don't really have as much health power, and the surveyors don't really take the nuke explosion well either, so those two enemies usually are just like one hit and they're gone. For larger enemies like, I'll say King Mong or like Ultimate Badass Loaders, sure, they're not going to fly across the map, but they will kind of get staggered a little bit. So it's not completely useless. You can also use that nuke blast, the initial blast and knockback to save an ally. Like if you have a teammate who is on the ground and you have another ally trying to revive him, and say you have one of the slag, what are they? Slag Skags, Ultimate Badass Slag Skags, and they're like trying to vomit on them while they're reviving. You can throw that thing, and the blast will just throw them back a little bit, so that your ally can continue the healing. Things of that nature make this nuke really helpful, because some people might not like having the explosion on their screen, but if it saves their lives, they might kind of think differently about it. Then, of course, I always like to think of the nuke as kind of, when you throw it, and the nuke blast just kind of knocks enemies back, it gives the turret a time, just like precious few seconds to kind of get itself situated and just immediately start firing. So it has maybe about 1 or 2 second advantage on the target to where it can actually start firing. So I like that aspect of it too. And all around, I think the nuke was just fine. I love using it, and it's pretty awesome. And now we will go into the Gorilla tree for the last tree. So of course in Tier 1 we have the Sentry and we have Ready skills. Both those are just, they're just awesome. Another few skills that I see every Commando have, which is nice. Sentry is kind of obvious because it'll add that much more time to your turret. Especially with Legendary Soldier, it makes it out there forever, it seems like. Then, of course, with Ready, the extra reload speed is very nice. I'll always pick that up. I used to, though, have that at 4 out of 5, but I recently put that at 5 out of 5 because when I'm using the non-Legendary Soldier comms, that extra reload speed helps out a lot. So, and I went ahead and just took a point away from Crisis Management, but we'll get to that in a minute. So, moving on down to Tier 2, we have Willing, which, is another great skill. Interestingly enough, I never used to spec this skill before Ultimate Vault Hunter mode. I didn't really think it was needed, but of course, once I got to Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, I thought, well, you know what, that could probably help, and it does. The extra shield recharge rate and delay make it very good, especially for Axton, and it really works well with, say, his quick charge skill. And so it's just a great skill to pick up, just like the first two in the tree. Then moving on down to Tier 3, we have Onslaught, which I always like to pick up because it's pretty awesome having the extra movement speed when you get a kill skill up, but also the extra gun damage can really help you out in a situation too. Like you're facing off against some tough dudes and you get that Onslaught pop up and you'll be able to rip things up for about 7 seconds. So make it count. And of course, also this is one of the skills that's boosted by my Rifleman comm, which is really nice. It buffs that up to about 9 out of 5, I think. And I believe it's the plus 50 some odd percent gun damage. So that's really nice. Like I said, the movement speed is nice too because you can also use it to maybe get away from a kind of a hairy encounter. It'll at least get you behind cover of some sort. So there's definitely a good use for that. Just an all-around good kill skill, and one that I always pick up. It's pretty awesome. Then, of course, we have Scorched Earth, which I also see a lot of Commandos run with, and for good reason. It's pretty cool. It adds rockets to your turret, and fortunately, since the turret does scale well into OP levels, the rockets do a good deal amount of damage. Since we're talking about enemies that are level 80 or level 81, have all this massive health, the Scorched Earth goes to work on them pretty well. Pretty nice, so it's just one of the good skill to pick up, and that's why I always do. Move on down to Grenadier. Some people might not like this skill because it's just grenades. Like, whoop-de-doo, more grenades, but I like it. As you can see, as you probably saw from some of my videos, I do carry a lot of grenades. I carry a boatload of grenades. So I do like having an extra five grenade capacity. And then of course, if I'm wearing the Grenadier comm, it's gonna change to even more. So I do like that. Being able to spam more grenades, like especially fastballs or meteor showers, is a good thing in my opinion. It's pretty awesome. This is actually the one skill that's kind of left over when I get all of my essentials spec'd. Like for instance, going through all 3 trees, I'll usually have just the 5 points left after I get the skills I absolutely want and need. And I could put them in, say, Ranger or Quick Charge, but I definitely prefer put it in Grenadier. I think it's the best choice in my opinion. I just love throwing grenades. Then of course, going on down to Tier 5, which is Crisis Management. Kind of goes along the same lines as Last Ditch Effort, in that, you can spend a lot of time, a lot of skills trying to avoid going into a fight for your life, but in my opinion, it's eventuality again. One of the criticisms of Crisis Management that I hear a lot is that it doesn't go well with, say, Willing. It doesn't synergize as well. And yeah, it's kind of obvious it doesn't. I used to use the Rough Rider shield to get the crisis management bonus when I was still on level 61, but it's not really a good idea to do on OP8 now, having tried that. But the one thing they always seem to overlook is, though, that crisis management says you get extra gun damage and extra melee damage when shields are depleted. Well, shields are depleted when, of course, you got people shooting at them, but they're also depleted when you're in fight for your life, which makes this a great fight for your life skill. So really, you have crisis management and a last-ditch effort tag team and give me some good damage, which in my case is, 60% damage? So that's not bad at all. And like I was saying with last-ditch effort, that extra damage might just save your life, especially if you're on 4-player OP8 difficulty. So that's why I pick up crisis management as well. Truth be told, there's not really a whole lot of other skills that I would have picked up either. I don't really like Able that much. Some people seem to think it does really well. For how I play, I don't use Moxie weapons at all. I don't think I really ever used them that much. But I know I did use things like the Norfleet and the Bee and some Sandhawks and that kind of stuff. And I really honestly got tired of... The hardest choice I had to make was which element to switch to for the Sandhawk, and just putting my Bee on, and I just kind of knew there was other weapons there. I just wanted to try them out. But getting back to Able, since I don't really use Moxie weapons at all, Able is not really going to help me get my health up that quickly. It'll help me, if I'm not using any transfusion grenades. But there has been multiple times where, say, I'm in Frostburn Canyon and I'm fighting one of these ultimate badass psychos that have just the massive melee attack. He'll hit me once, my shield will be really damaged, then with his next hit, my shield will be gone, and then my health was just it'll be like 2,000 out of, 530,000 health total. So I just get extremely health gated, and even if I had a beastly weapon, what would it be, 2% of maximum health per second is not really going to help me get back up there very quickly. I just feel that it's not really needed, especially if you have, like I said, transfusion grenades. I love my zero fuse slag transfusion grenades, so I'll use that often. But I just don't really see a big use for Able. Then of course there's laser sight, which you could use it, you can pick it up, but my ramblings on that there are other skills that are kind of better, so I just leave that. I don't really think there's anything wrong with putting 1 out of 5 or just even 5 out of 5 in it, but for me there's other skills down here, like say Onslaught or Grenadier, that I want, and when put up against those type of skills, laser sight just kind of seems like it's not really needed. And then, of course, lastly, we have good old double up. I see that in a lot of builds. Of course, it's one of the main things to the guerrilla/survival builds. 2 turrets with slagging capabilities and scorched earth rockets, and I kind of touched on that a little earlier. How it's a good build and all, but I just don't really like. It kind of seems to me like those kind of builds are more for maybe defense and having the turret kind of do most of the work. And don't get me wrong, I sometimes just throw the turret out there and I like to let it kind of soak up the aggro for a second or two, then I just go to work and maybe pick out some of the outliers of the enemies on the map, or just assault somebody, or assault the same thing the turret's assaulting. So, but for the playstyle that I use, I pick up enough skills so that I am definitely more damaging than the turret, because the turret is good and all. It can throw rockets all day and do slag, but it can't really spam grenades. It can't spam TDO reloads. It can't make assault rifles really good. So I generally, with the skill tree setup that I use here, it makes Axton a powerhouse, while still allowing the turret to do its fair share of the work too. But I generally see my build as being more Axton centered rather than turret centered. Of course, I mean, like I said, I have just the one turret, but it has nuke, so it's not really frail if you think about it. So that's kind of why I choose this skill tree setup, because I feel that it makes my Axton, it brings his damage to the max. Well, you could say, well, if you pick up Ranger, your damage will probably be maxed out, but still, it maxes out his damage very well, and you can even not even rely on the turret if you wanted to be quite honest. I would have a lot of skills that would be basically null and void if I did that, but you can do it. It's set up in a way that you're able to just do damage with, like, say impact and onslaught and throw grenades and do TDO reloads, but you can still do all that. It's just won't be as maxed out without the turret out. So basically that is my method to my madness for my build here. I hope I was able to explain everything pretty clearly. Some people make this commentary thing look easier than it actually is. So, kind of a few slip ups there, but it's just how I learn, I guess. But I was kind of glad to bring you this commentary, and just let me know what you think. And like I said, now that we've laid the groundwork for the build that I use, I'll be able to go in my next video to show you and demonstrate just how effortless it is to switch between class mods. And I'll just go into that more detail in the next video. So until then, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a good one, and I'll see you then. Bye.